2, 1. All right. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome. Thank you all so much for being here. Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. My name is Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. Today we're talking about this new program. It's called Keeping Families Together. It's a parole in place program for the spouses and stepchildren of U.S. citizens. All right. And so thank you all so much for being here. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. My name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. And welcome to another episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. All right. As always, the Empowered Immigrant Live is here to train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to make the most out of immigration laws and to make the most out of their lives. All right. So today our theme, as I mentioned, is the Keeping Families Together new parole in place process for spouses and children of U.S. citizens, spouses and stepchildren, actually, of U.S. citizens. And so thank you so much for tuning in. Our office has been accepting these cases. I've been talking to a lot of clients just starting yesterday because they just released the regulations yesterday. And so it's exciting. I'm happy about it for those who can benefit from it. And as always, I am sad about it for the people who are not eligible for it, right? There's 10 million or more people who are not eligible for this program. And so if you're not eligible, then hey, let's figure out if there's some other strategy, some other option that's available. But if you are eligible, or if you're not sure whether or not you're eligible, hey, let's talk it through. And that's the topic of conversation in our live session today, all right? Before we get into it, it's like, hey, do you want to get a green card? Do you want to apply for citizenship? Do you want to apply for some kind of immigration benefit, or at least see what your options are? Because if so, go for it, all right? Life is short. Immigration cases are long. It's like there's no time like the present to get started, all right? My firm is on a mission to win 10,000 immigration cases in the next 10 years. We would love for your case to be one of them. If we can help you out with whatever questions or situation you have, we'd love to do that, okay? So thank you all so much for being here. Now I'm going to get into this conversation about the Keeping Families Together parole in place process. And as I'm talking, if you have questions, please send them to me. I'll do my best to answer them. All right? And welcome everybody, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. This new program started yesterday. The regulations are out. Okay? It creates a parole in place. Now, what is that? What is that? All right? It's basically a statement that the government says that, hey, this person was paroled, meaning they have an authorization from the government to be in the U.S. without having been formally admitted to the U.S. I'll say that again because this is kind of confusing and strange, all right? Parole is an authorization from the government to be physically in the U.S. You are authorized to be in the U.S. with parole. They even can give you a work permit through the parole process for up to 3 years. But you have not yet been legally admitted to the U.S., which means technically you don't have to be quote-unquote admissible as defined by Section 212 of the Immigration Nationality Act. However, to utilize the parole to its fullest extent, you'd get the parole first, and then you would apply for your green card to, at that time, be formally admitted. All right? When you apply for the green card, of course, you do have to be admissible or eligible for a waiver. Got it? That's the way it works. I'm sorry if that's not clear. And if I could clarify it in any more detail, please let me know that. And we could also do that in a consultation, right? If you have questions about your specific situation and whether or not parole is a good strategy for you, because it's not for everyone, right? But if it is for you, hey, I'd love to talk that through. So what does this program really create for folks? All right? It creates a new pathway to apply for parole in place, which we'll talk about too, if you meet 5 eligibility criteria. All right, and I've talked about this in previous episodes. What are the 5 criteria, folks? Who knows? Who's got them? All right, who's got them? The 5 criteria are, number 1, as of June 17th, 2024, you are married to a U.S. citizen. Okay? Not married to a green card holder as of June 17, 2024. Not married to somebody who's filing for asylum. Not married to somebody with DACA. You're married to a U.S. citizen. Now, if you have DACA, you can do this. All right? So, category 1, requirement 1, eligibility criteria number 1. As of June 17, 2024, you're married to a U.S. citizen. Criteria number 2, as of June 17, 2024, you have 10 years of presence, physical presence in the United States. How many years? 10 years. Got it? Criteria number 3, you were not inspected, admitted, or paroled in the U.S. on your most recent entry. All right? You are present without having been admitted or paroled. All right? Because if you were admitted or paroled on this most recent entry, you just don't need it, right? So it is one of the eligibility criteria. You cannot have been, like if you entered on a visa, you don't need to apply for this. Don't apply for this. All right? That's requirement 3. Requirement number 4 is you cannot be a threat to the national security, public safety, or have disqualifying criminal history, which according to the regulations means you cannot have pending charges against you right now, pending against you. All right, you won't be eligible for this program. You cannot have felony convictions against you. All right, and you can't have drug offenses. There are certain other offenses that will disqualify you from this program. Before you apply for this program, if you've ever been arrested, make sure to get a full rap sheet. Make sure to talk that through with your attorney. You don't want to apply for this and put yourself at risk. Okay? All right, and then finally, eligibility criteria number 5 is you must merit a favorable exercise of discretion. Okay? So there are the 5. What are the 5 again? All right, real quick. Married to a U.S. citizen, have 10 years of physical presence, not inspected and admitted or paroled, not a threat to security, public safety, or have disqualifying crimes, and you must merit a favorable exercise of discretion. Those are the 5 criteria. If you meet those 5 criteria, congratulations, you can apply for parole in place. What is parole in place? Well, parole in place means you don't have to go anywhere. All right? As opposed to advanced parole, where you get a travel document to leave and re-enter. Parole in place is better than that, everybody, because you don't have to go anywhere. You can stay in place in the U.S., and you can apply and just get paroled in without having to travel to utilize the parole. You just automatically get it granted. Okay? Why is this important? Because if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you want to file for adjustment of status. You want to file for your green card, all right? Then you've got to show 3 eligibility criteria. The first one is you have to have been inspected, admitted, or paroled. So parole in place gets you that first key criteria to be eligible for a green card through your spouse. Of course, the second is you have to be lawfully married and in a good faith relationship, not just for immigration purposes. You have to be lawfully and in good faith married, all right? And the third requirement, of course, is you've got to be admissible or eligible for a waiver, all right? And that's at the time of applying for the green card. Let's get you parole first, and let's go through the green card process afterwards, right? That's the game plan. Who does this program help? Spouses of U.S. spouses of U.S. citizens, 500,000 or so people, 500,000 people in that situation, and those spouses' children, as long as they're unmarried and under 21. There's about 50,000 of those folks. The stepchildren can be included, all right? Now, there are certain other requirements for stepchildren, right? They don't have to have the 10 years of physical presence. They just have to have been physically present on or before July 17th, 2024, all right? But they have to meet the definition of a stepchild, which means that the marriage between the U.S. citizen and the person who's applying the spouse needs to have happened before that child turned 18, all right? So you got to know that. That's just that's a forever requirement. That's like actually the definition of a stepchild as defined by U.S. immigration law. So there you go. All right, so what's the benefit of going through this process? Well, the benefit is huge. The potential benefit, I'll call it like that. The potential benefit is huge because it allows you potentially to qualify for adjustment of status without leaving the U.S., which means you don't have to apply for an I-601A waiver, which can save you years of a process, which means you don't have to leave the U.S. to finalize your process at a consulate overseas, which also means that you can file your green card application and have it adjudicated here in the U.S., which gives you the right to have an attorney go with you and represent you through that process. It gives you the right to appeal if they deny your adjustment of status. It gives you the right to fight about that case in immigration court if you want to. Like, the amount of protections that come with this type of way of doing it are enormous. They are well worth the costs, the risks, etc., in the vast majority of situations. Obviously, if you have certain situations, your case will be riskier than most, all right? If you've ever have a deportation order against you, for example, your case is much more tricky, all right? You want to talk it through with a lawyer, all right? If you have certain arrests that arguably could disqualify you, your case will be riskier. All right? If you've ever committed immigration fraud, or if you ever helped some other person enter the U.S. without permission, or if you have other inadmissibility criteria, your risks are increased, perhaps slightly increased, because you can apply for a waiver of those things. If you're not eligible for a waiver because you have a permanent bar or a false claim to citizenship, then you want to talk those things through because you might need to look for other opportunities. All right, you might not be eligible for this. We can get into that more. I'm sure there's going to be a million questions with me just even saying that. Okay, let me just say it. All right, the regulations do not say that inadmissibility grounds make you ineligible for this. And as I said at the beginning, applying for parole is different than applying for admission. So legally, you technically do not have to be quote-unquote admissible to seek this parole, all right? But the point of this parole is to enable people to adjust status. So if you're not eligible for adjustment of status, then it's like you want to talk that through. You want to talk that through well, because you're in this kind of gray area. And yes, it's possible there's scenarios you could imagine where somebody wins parole but then isn't eligible to adjust. And that's true under current parole practices also. But it's kind of frustrating. You want to talk that through well before you ever submit the case. Anyway, we're doing good. How's everybody doing? Any questions out there? Any you know, Marisa, I see you here on TikTok, and Gerardo, hello, I see you on TikTok, and Joel, I see you here on Instagram, and all the folks tuning in on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn, hello and welcome. Thank you for being here. All right. So let's talk about the process. All right. So there's a filing fee. We now know the filing fee. It's $580. Okay. The way to do this, it's an electronic process, and it's a new process. They've created a new process with a new form, the I-131F. All right, it's a new form. It's a pretty simple form. All right. To do it, we've got to create a USCIS online account. If you've never created one, we'll help you create one. We do this as part of our service. All right. We have to upload all of the evidence and all of the information to support our request to that account. All right. So imagine PDF files labeled Physical Presence 2014. PDF files labeled Physical Presence 2015, 2016, 17, 18, 19. You got to show 10 years of physical presence documents. All right? We've got to show your ID documents. We got to show your marriage license. We got to upload all of those things one document at a time to your USCIS portal. We're going to review all of these with an attorney. All right? And then once it's all good, we hit the submit button. Then we get a receipt notice. Then, in some cases, we'll get a request for biometrics. In other cases, they may have, like if you already have a case pending, you already filed an I-601A waiver, for example, perfect example, you might already have gotten your biometrics taken, in which case they might not need them anymore, all right? And then you'll await your decision. Now, how long is the process? We don't know. We don't know, but we're crossing our fingers and hopeful that the government adjudicates these things quickly, like before the November election quickly. All right, that's our hope. We can't guarantee it, obviously. We're hoping that the government delivers on that. Now, what problems are out there? I'm mindful of the time. I got to speed things up, all right? What problems are out there? Well, we got to anticipate. It's very likely that there's going to be a lawsuit filed that challenges this whole thing. So that might happen today, might happen this week, might not happen, who knows, right? But historically, in recent history, new programs get announced and almost immediately there's opposition that files some kind of lawsuit to challenge the program, and then we got to wait and see what happens within the courts. So that's one thing that could happen. The other thing that could happen is a November election is coming up, and this whole thing could be undone by the next president, right? So you got to be mindful of that, and you got to be mindful of who you vote for. If you're a U.S. citizen listening to me, your vote matters. Your vote matters for immigrants, all right? Your vote matters for the sake of the country, really for the sake of the world. All right, there's a lot at stake this November, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot at stake, all right? So I get this question a lot. Hey, lawyer, what are the risks in my case? What are the risks of applying for this thing? Well, we want to talk that through, all right? If you're going through an I-601A waiver case with your spouse already, right? And if your plan previously was to go through, you got married, you're filing an I-130, then the I-601A, and if you've already met with an attorney, you're already eligible for that process. If that's the situation, then in your situation, your risks to do this should be relatively low and the benefits should be relatively high. Like in that situation, it's worth doing. All right? It's low, the risks are low because it's like, hey, if they deny you, so what? You just continue with your I-601A and you win your case that way. Right? You've got your plan B already built. But if you're not eligible for the I-601A, or if you've consulted with a lawyer and they're like, maybe you shouldn't apply for the I-601A for whatever reason, that's where you might want to talk about this program, and you might want to think about, okay, are there risks to doing this program? Okay? Now, and those might include if you have immigration fraud or crimes or alien smuggling or unlawful presence bars, etc. you want to talk things through carefully with your lawyer first. All right? Alexia, I see your question here. Thank you for it. I see your question here. Really appreciate that. You say, can people that have a misdemeanor DUI 10 years ago qualify for parole in place? I believe the answer is yes. I believe the answer is yes. And I might be wrong. All right? And so all of this is that's a great question. What I think, the way parole works is it is a case-by-case analysis. It is a discretionary analysis, all right? The fact that it was a misdemeanor and not a felony is good. You should be allowed to apply for it. However, misdemeanors that involve drugs and alcohol are problematic. And so you would need to present a lot of evidence to overcome, all right? You would need to present a lot of evidence to overcome the misdemeanor that is against you, all right? The good thing is a misdemeanor DUI doesn't make you inadmissible, so you wouldn't need a waiver at the time of the adjustment of status. I believe that you would have a winnable case, especially since it's 10 years ago. Give us a call. I'd love to help you with that parole in place request. We just got to be cautious about how to submit it, how to document the paperwork, etc. Okay? Yvonne, I see your question here. Thank you. Yvonne, you say, hey, I've applied for advanced parole under DACA. My application is pending. Should I apply for parole in place? Could this be a faster way to apply for adjustment of status? Great question, Yvonne. Great question. You could do both. All right, you could apply for parole in place and use it if it's granted. It might come fast, if the government is adjudicating these as quickly as we think they're going to adjudicate them. Okay, and the good thing in your situation is, hey, if they deny this parole in place thing, well, you've got your application for parole under DACA. Yeah, you'd have to leave the country and re-enter, but that's pretty solid. All right, that's pretty solid. I've won that in hundreds of cases for DACA recipients. You should be okay as long as you don't have any red flags in your situation. All right, Yvonne, if my office can help you in any way navigate that, or make sure your DACA was done properly, make sure anyway, anything. If you need help with any of that, feel free to give us a call. We'd love to help you. Okay? Nice. All right. What if you're not eligible? I said this at the beginning too. There are 500,000, 500,000 or so people who are eligible in theory for this process, which means that there's like 10 and a half or more million people in the U.S. without documents who aren't eligible for this. All right? And so if you're one of the people where it's like, hey, you and your spouse, you're together, but you never legally got married. I was meeting with one of those clients yesterday. It's like, man, we never got married, right? We've lived together for years. We basically are married, but we're not legally married. It's like, sorry, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. I'm sorry, right? I wish that we could fix that. Some states recognize common law marriages. Many states do not. California, where I live, does not recognize common law marriage. And so it's like, okay, that doesn't work. Okay? And so let's find something else. U visas, asylum cases. If there's something else, we can apply for something else. But this parole in place process will not be the solution for some people. So if you're not eligible for this parole in place process, hey, let's still talk it through. Don't give up hope. There's still something that we can do. All right? The best advice right now is to get clarity. Get clear about your situation. Get clear as to whether or not you're actually eligible for this thing. And if you appear eligible, hey, let's go. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's apply for it, right? Because you don't want to miss the opportunity. That brings me to my empowerment tip. It's really simple today, right? This is the Empowered Immigrant Live. I like to share an empowerment tip. It's about opportunities, all right? Opportunities do exist, everybody. Opportunities are out there. Opportunities to improve our lives. They are out there. They do exist, all right? The challenge is we've got to keep our eyes open to them, We got to be open to them. All right? Because if we're walking around with our eyes closed, we don't notice the opportunities that are around us. It's up to us to be open to them, to find them, and to grab them, to take advantage of them, to utilize them to actually improve the quality of our lives. Okay? It's like we can do that. I see a question coming in on TikTok. Thank you and hello for this. User, I can't see your full name there, but you say, I have an administrative asylum case. What can I do? Can parole in place be approved? If you meet the eligibility requirements for this parole in place, thank you for asking your question. If you meet the eligibility, like if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you got more than 10 years in the country, then yeah, you can apply for this parole in place, and then after you adjust status, you can withdraw your affirmative asylum case, and you don't have to worry about the asylum case anymore. I see a question from Sid here. Hey, can I have some advice about a reckless driving ticket? My court date's next Tuesday. My office does not do criminal defense, so get a criminal defense attorney. And a reckless driving ticket should not make you ineligible for this parole in place process if you're eligible for that. Okay, I'd love to talk that through with you. If I can help you with your immigration case, hey, give us a call. We'd love to help. Okay? So, cool. I think that I got to all the questions. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to do this same episode in Spanish in just a minute, all right? So if you want to join us in Spanish, hey, stay tuned. I'll be right back on in just a few minutes. In the meantime, though, if my office can help you, right? We're helping people. We're taking consults today. We're taking consults this week. We'd love to help you, all right? So the best way to do that is you can either call or text our number. It should be there beneath the description of this video, or look us up, Land or Home Immigration, all right? We're here to help. We'd love to help. If this content was useful for you, please subscribe to our channel. Please give us a thumbs up. Please share some love with us here on whatever channel you're watching right now on. All right, I'd really appreciate that. And thank you all so much for being here. All right, my name's Otis Landerholm. I'm the founding attorney here at Landerholm Immigration, A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. We'll see you next time on our next episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Take care. Bye-bye.